Hi, welcome to the Oak Trader Report on the 1st of December. Just wanted to do a little piece here on Bitcoin. Had quite a few questions about it. I did bring it up a few months back as well. It's something that I've been looking at over the last couple of years, and I just thought I'd pull up a chart here just to show you what it looks like here, the supply and demand from May to sort of September. These are from a company called bitcoincharts.com. And you can see here the long flat line and then the breakout and the spike upwards. In terms of it, is it a bubble? I wouldn't have a clue because I wouldn't know really how to value it, and I don't use supercomputers and I don't have analysis, and I wait for price action to confirm my position in the market. So in terms of taking a position in Bitcoin, I wouldn't be taking one at this present juncture. In terms of its long-term viability, I was going to talk to you a little bit about that today as well. I think it's got a good long-term future. In terms of the price, I haven't got a clue about what price it will settle at in the end. But in terms of its future, it's looking pretty good. But if you look back to the days of, say, Manhattan real estate, it was worth nothing. Say 400, 300 years ago, 200 years ago. And look what it's worth today. It all comes down to demand, and the viability from Bitcoin, I believe, comes from its hardcore following. It's already got a lot of people that live on its real estate, so to speak, and there's a lot of people that want to see this happen. Okay, just thought I'd pull up a little article that was written by myself a little while ago. It was written last Tuesday, and I've just been updating it with little thoughts here and there. Most mainstream commentators or article writers seem to get the Bitcoin debate mixed up. They seem to be focusing their attention on price and the present moment rather than the long-term viability of Bitcoin, or even the idea of a decentralized computer-programmed currency. Personally, I'm interested in the long-term viability of Bitcoin, and I think that's the only thing that matters in the end. I don't think the mainstream media has caught on to the fact that Bitcoin, or an idea similar to Bitcoin, could be very useful for payments of goods and services. There are two things to look at, and they are both interlinked. Is it a viable medium of exchange, or is it a bubble? The first question, is it viable? With any new product, idea, system, there is a period of price discovery where prices fluctuate wildly as the free market determines the real value. Oil went from $0 to $20 and then all the way back to $2 in the first few years of its existence. This is the period of price discovery where market participants try to determine the price through supply and demand analysis, and more importantly, using their imagination. They try to look into the future to see how things will work out. Some reasons why Bitcoin has the potential to be viable. The market is liquid and has the potential for much more liquidity once the main price discovery cycle has finished and prices settle down to a more mundane range of fluctuations. There will be more market participants once this happens. The main price discovery phase will finish when investors, consumers figure out all the possibilities of Bitcoin. Just like a stock that goes from penny to mid-cap to blue chip, at the moment there are some very powerful computers working out all the possibilities, and of course your small-time investors doing their research as well. These will be the first people to have figured out roughly what price Bitcoin should be. Once these details become clearer, the information will spread and the price will eventually calm down. And I'm sure there's people already that have figured out what the price should be in terms of how they feel the market is valued, and perhaps that's the reason why we've seen the tremendous push up in prices, because there's a few smart people out there that know what the price should be, or perhaps it's not that, and there's a few idiotic people out there that have bought well too high. The future will have to tell us. If the price can come down a bit once it reaches its true free market value, if there really is such a thing, perception and consensus are everything, then we should see more enhancements to the Bitcoin experience, which will in turn create more and more users. For example, more trustworthy online wallets, better operations, software to service the needs of users and traders, better hardware, for example, Bitcoin ATMs and physical Bitcoin chip wallets where you swipe to pay in the retail locations. Better mining techniques plus high prices are increasing the circulation of Bitcoins. The sooner Bitcoin reaches 21 million, which is its limit, the better. Less hoarding, more circulation, like a real currency. I know you can break down coins into fractions, and this is where the supercomputers come in, working out if all this is viable for the long term. Is it a bubble? Just because something is in a bubble does not mean it does not have a viable future. Bitcoin is capped. Unlike the USD, Bitcoin can't add any more Bitcoins after 21 million have been mined, created. Just because something has gone from $0 to $1,000 does not mean it's a bubble. I don't know the real value as discussed above about price discovery is the only real way that we'll find out, and that takes time. I think if you were looking at this like an investor, you would look at the fact that with Bitcoin there are clear rules that can't be deviated from. The rules are set in stone. For example, take Chile. Very impressive policies to get the economy sorted out, which in turn over the decade has strengthened their currency, the peso. That's all fine and dandy, but what happens if you're holding pesos and a Stalin-like character gets into power, and now because of bad policies the value of your pesos heads south? With Bitcoin you don't have the human element changing the rules, because the rules have already been set in stone. But I bet there are some very smart people that think they know, or in the process of knowing very soon, where that price of Bitcoin should be. Business owners and entrepreneurs are not really interested in what price Bitcoin ends up. Why? Because they view Bitcoin as a medium of commerce, and they want to sell more goods and services, and they are fed up with what's out there at the moment. Entrepreneurs want to revolt away from these payment systems like PayPal and WorldPay. They're not so much interested in the speculation, they're interested actually in the currency and what it can do for them, and that's a good sign for the viability of Bitcoin for the future. They make business owners, PayPal and WorldPay, jump through hoops, and that's in the Western world. Entrepreneurs in other countries struggle for any services from the mainstream at all. They want and need Bitcoin or something very similar. They are ready to revolt, so whether it's Bitcoin or something very similar, the need is massive. To be viable, the product must have a liquid market. As discussed before, the market for Bitcoin is already pretty liquid. It has a massive hardcore following from these sectors all over the world already. The ever-growing trend for these sectors to massively increase usage will increase liquidity, which in turn will make it viable. The wind is blowing this way. Internet entrepreneurs, website owners are crying out for a fair, easy-to-use medium of exchange. They are fed up with companies like PayPal and WorldPay, high fees, badly designed software, and sometimes an uncertain policy about holding on to business owners' funds for extended periods of time. The eternal drive for efficiency and better conversion rates, Henry Ford style, for example, using credit and debit cards online. You have to give all your information when there is no reason to sometimes. The majority of products and services downloads can just be bought in one simple detail-free transaction. Think about it this way. If you went into your local corner shop to buy mobile, cell credit, you hand over the cash and they hand you the phone credit. They don't ask you for your name and address, etc. The internet should be the same way. Paste your code and receive your purchase. And also someone in, say, Africa, Asia, South America can pay the business owner, and the business owner knows for certain there's going to be no clawback or fraud problems, and that opens up a higher increase potential for the business owner, and it makes commerce easy between different areas of the world. There's also a big demand for bitcoins from privacy seekers as well, and you've got second and third world consumers who will be able to buy stuff online, whereas they're not sometimes they're not enabled to do that at the moment. It could be viewed as a store of wealth in the future once the price settles down. rather than a tool of speculation. And then you've got industries like the adult industry as well, that are taken aboard bitcoins and want to use bitcoins as well. And this is only going to increase the liquidity. And if something is going to be viable, it needs to be liquid in terms of the exchange. And you've got the gambling and betting industry. There's so many different industries that are fed up of paying huge amounts of money for processing payments. And with bitcoins, you've got a hardcore following like a football club. You've got these people who really want to see and make this happen. You know, they particularly like the fact that the rules are set in stone. It's a decentralized currency. There's much more transparency with the blockchains, and there's numerous trends that have developed over the last 10 or 15 years where a currency like Bitcoin is definitely something that, you know, I would say that 5 to 10% of the people out there would use pretty much all the time. With Bitcoin, I can buy goods and services around the world, and these offerings will only increase at some point in the future. My personal opinion is that Bitcoin, or a semi-clone of Bitcoin, taking all the best aspects, will be around in 50 to 100 years from now. That's all I know. The only things that can stop this are dictatorships and natural disasters and something wiping out the technology, some type of ambush, some types of powerful interests perhaps not wanting to see it happen. But eventually something will happen, whether it's Bitcoin or Bitcoin Mark 5, who knows, or an offshot of something similar to Bitcoin. But I think it is the way of the future, a computer programmed currency that's set in stone. And it could be like the tech bubble, what we're seeing at the moment. You know, 1993, the majority thought it was for geeks. Just like a few years back, you know, people were dismissing Bitcoin. They're still dismissing it now, as they did technology back in 1999, with good reason, because it was well overvalued. It was in a bubble. But again, the long-term industry, the technology industry, was viable in a lot of different cases, and we're seeing that now in terms of the efficiency it's bringing to many different areas of the economy. So with any new industry, the price discovery phase, you know, can take something like 20 to 30 years for real facts to come about the long-term viability of any particular industry, service or product. It takes time for the price discovery period to process. And it could be the same with Bitcoin. And I believe that Bitcoin, or something similar to Bitcoin, will be around in the long term. And just like with money, it started with rocks, pearls, diamonds, jewellery, then it went on to metals, then on to paper money we know today. The main idea of a currency set in stone without human intervention is the way that the wind is blowing. But just like how money evolved, how trading evolved, Bitcoin may evolve, but something similar of nature, I believe, will be around. If you want to see the rest of the articles and a few other points, check out globalinvestorradio.com for the text of the article in a much more clearer fashion. And I just thought I'd finish today's Oak Trader just with a picture of Frederick Hayek there. I'm sure he would have approved of Bitcoin trading between individuals without government intervention. And I think whatever happens with Bitcoin, it's a good human experiment, and it would be worth watching over the next few years to see how it all develops. Okay, over and out for now, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.